You're in the Situation Room, happening now. New action from the United Nations as the violence in Syria spins out of control. Just ahead, why some critics argue it's too little, too late. Plus, it's a place where not 1 inch of skin can be exposed. CNN suits up for exclusive access inside the epicenter of a deadly Ebola outbreak. And gay rights activists around the country seal their bold message to Chick-fil-A with a kiss. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. Wolf Blitzer is off today. I'm Candy Crowley, and you're in the Situation Room. Bloodshed worsens in Syria, prompting grave concern inside the UN. The General Assembly today issued a strong resolution not only slamming the actions of the Syrian government, but also the Security Council's failure to deal with the crisis. This amid reports of 120 people killed across the country just today, at least 72 of them believed to be in another deadly massacre. We want to go straight to our Brian Todd, who's joining us with more. Brian.
Candy, this is an all-out chaotic fight in Syria right now. The cavalry is not on the way. The UN and the West unable to step in right now. And now the Syrian rebels have weapons that can cause even more bloodshed. The battles are growing uglier and more contentious. Syrian rebels slugging it out with government near Damascus and Aleppo. Rebel factions now have some heavy armament on their side, including tanks and heavy guns captured from the Syrian army. Not all are serviceable, but the rebels used some against the army this week near Aleppo. How did they capture them?
These regime troops are very coward, and once they feel the heat from the freedom fighters, they just desert their tanks, just like that.
Akil Hashem is a retired Syrian army general. He left the military a long time ago, but knows it well. He now supports the opposition forces. I asked Hashem if the newly seized tanks might tip the balance for the rebels.
No, not at all. The regime still have something around 4,000 tanks. So capturing 40 or 50 or 60 will not make any difference.
Hashem says if the rebels get more sophisticated anti-tank or anti-aircraft weapons, those would make more of a difference. What's not making a huge difference right now? The United Nations. The Security Council could not agree on tough resolutions against Syria, and Special Envoy Kofi Annan quit in exasperation.
When the Syrian people desperately need action, there continues to be finger-pointing and name-calling in the Security Council.
That ineffectiveness in Syria draws grim comparisons. There, as in the Bosnian town of Srebrenica and Rwanda in the 1990s, the world body has shown an inability to stop a murderous regime or paramilitary force bent on killing. Analyst Frank Gaffney says the UN sometimes even makes things worse.
How does it contribute to problems in situations like this, civil wars, other things like that?
One way is by creating the impression that somebody's going to do something about a problem. Whatever that problem may be. It's a humanitarian disaster on the one hand, or in cases like this, it's acts of aggression, often genocidal in proportion. And in the end, it almost never can do anything.
A UN spokesman responds.
But when the UN Security Council is united, like they were last year in Libya, it can be very effective. In Libya, the Security Council was able to halt an offensive that could have killed tens of thousands of people.
Farhan Haq also cites conflicts in Lebanon, Eritrea, and Ethiopia, and in Congo, where he says the UN was able to ratchet down tensions on the ground with the use of its peacekeepers, humanitarian aid teams, and peace negotiators. Candy.
Let me just get back a minute to the weaponry. You say that the rebels now have got some Syrian government tanks and some other equipment. I'm reminded of those pictures in Libya where we saw some of the rebels take over some of the equipment, and they were shooting ground-to-air missiles in the wrong direction. action.
Right.
Do these rebels know how to operate some of this heavy-duty equipment?
General Akil Hashem says every young man in Syria has to undergo at least 2 years of military training, military service. So he says many of them do have some rudimentary knowledge of that. They can have some rudimentary knowledge of how to operate tanks. But the question now is, a lot of analysts are saying a lot of these tanks are in pretty bad shape, so their effectiveness is going to be limited. We'll see what they can do with some of this equipment.
Yeah, some of it better than none of it, but nonetheless.
Right.
Thanks so much, Brent. I appreciate it. Joining us now to talk more about the crisis in Syria, Andrew Tabler. He's a senior fellow at the Washington Institute and author of the new book, In the Lion's Den. Andrew, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
What can you tell us about Aleppo right now and the fighting that's going on there?
There's an intense battle going on between the rebels, who claim to actually control about a third or more of the city, and the government's forces, which have thrown everything that they possibly can at Aleppo, including pulling military units out of key areas in the Kurdish east and elsewhere in the country. So it's a real battle. It's Syria's largest, and it's there that the regime hopes to put a lid on this Ramadan offensive by the opposition.
And so when we hear so often, oh, this will be the turning point, Aleppo is the key, do you mean the war will either continue here or end here? Is that what that means?
No, it's just that this is just one of the flare-ups, and it's been every year during every Ramadan since the beginning of the uprising, violence has spiked, and this is one thing that I think that most of the international powers were looking to, it's been a real problem because, as some of your earlier commentators have said, the UN's been unable to step in and unable to come up with a solution to this.
And let's say the UN was able to come up with something, which obviously they are unable to do that because the Security Council is so split. But Assad is not going to listen to the Security Council, is he?
Absolutely not.
So that's always sort of been a function with absolutely no meaning.
Exactly. It's actually pretending to do something when you're actually not doing something. And I think this is where Kofi Annan was wrong. I don't think it's Russia and America's fault for this. The origin of the conflict is inside of Syria. That's where the political problem is. And one side has to win over the other. And the United States backs the opposition, as do the Western countries. And now we're going to have to go that route by directly backing them.
Okay. Listen, thank you so much, Andrew Tabler. It's always good to get your perspective.
My pleasure.